somewhere where all of us can go and do something, instead of being on a corner. But that's how it was. YMCA's, when they took those away from us, that was a good outlet because it had, even like the guys that was inside the projects was able to governance the guys that was, even was bad or didn't have their parents, whatever. They created basketball teams, football teams. So we was able to learn discipline, then instead of running around in the streets. So it was always programs around when we was coming up to keep most of the people, out, at harm's way if they could. And even when they had the vans or the buses used to come pick us up in the group, it take us to the park, take us places as groups, but then those budgets, just when that stuff stop happening, then a lot of stuff start happening in our neighborhood. So
Yeah.
it's just the terrain of the structure, the infrastructure, or we live and born and raised. Because when I was living in Augusta, Georgia, I was born and raised. I got a chance to experience living in Augusta, Georgia, and Aiken, South Carolina, and that was one of the phenomenal. It was phenomenal. It was like looking at TV. Living Christmas was snowing, and
Really the
and when
environment.
you had your class, yeah, it was beautiful. You know what I mean? So it's like, even like I seen that difference, like I had a taste of it because my dad used to work for a power plant. He was he was a plumber at the time, but it was beautiful to travel and be in the woods and look at nature. It was different than gun violence. You know what I'm saying? So I got a chance to see the difference and seeing that what the environment would have done for us. Like, it had me more adventurous when I was
Right.
living up the road, because of you just going through the woods and traveling. It was more like, while you're in a neighborhood that's constructed how it's constructed, you still being adventurous, but now you're doing stuff that they already constructed you to do, as in TV and music. They got already programmed you to be a certain way. So you follow this, peer pressure, or follow the
Right.
hype of what everybody else doing. So that will continuously have you going in the pattern of following and think you got to be hard against or you got to
Yeah.
be rough and tough because you're growing up in an environment where everybody got to fight all the time. You
Well,
go
and
in
I
there.
like the point that you made about poverty, right? And that's definitely what we've been kind of leading towards as well, right? Poverty is
Mhm.
really at
Right.
It's a key. It's a real key too. That's a real
uh,
key.
I wanted to also kind of find out how did the incident impact your work, especially you should kind of, I mean, you work law enforcement, right? How did that impact you having been,
Yes, I was
like,
gonna say I wanted to
Lab-
collaborate on this being at the age of 16.
mhm,
I came from a good neighborhood. And because my mom ended up being a single parent, I ended up in a bad neighborhood. So in that bad neighborhood was the same neighborhood where I lost my son that I moved out of because I didn't want my kids to experience that, but still ended up losing a kid in the same area. At 16, I also witnessed a murder that I was on trial for. And that murder followed me until my adult years. I was working as a 911 police dispatcher, and I had to testify on this same murder at 23 years old as well. So working law enforcement and then also meeting him, there was people talking because they're like, oh, he come from a criminal back path, he has a criminal past and you're a police dispatcher. How does that work? I said, well, when I meet people, I'm not, running their record. But as I found out what he had, I was like, okay, he don't have any robbing